All right. Well, thank you for joining us on time for those who are here, and welcome. I know it's late on a Tuesday evening, and you must have a lot of questions, and this will be a very insightful session, so your time will not be wasted. So, for those who perhaps are meeting me for the first time, I think there are a few new names on. I am Priyanka. I'm the founder of AMI. And at AMI, we connect parents and, or expectant parents and new parents with experts. And we try to make this as easy as possible through our workshops, such as this one, which is free to attend. But we also have an online booking platform now, which is quite recent, where you can book appointments directly with experts. May I just request for those who are joining to quickly pop in the chat how old your child is, or age in months or years, whatever might be relevant to you. That'll give Esther an idea of the audience, and perhaps she could tailor the talk better. So, hi Anna, good to see you back at one of these. I was just saying if you could pop up in the chat. Oh, due next week. Amazing. That's great, Hannah. Very on point then. Perfect timing. 40 weeks pregnant. Fantastic. Plus 6 days. Okay. Any day now. Okay. Great. 36 weeks pregnant, Anna says. Fine. That's amazing. 39 weeks. It's incredible. You could not have found a better time to do this, actually. I wish I was as well prepared as you are, or as proactive as you are when I had my children. Amazing. Sheena, if you could also pop in the chat how old, and Isabel, how old, or maybe Isabel, you've already done that. Yes. Okay, yes, 39 weeks. Fantastic. So you're all in a very similar life stage. If you want to connect afterwards, just ping me and I can make that happen, because it might be helpful to have a group of people who are going through a similar journey. Okay, so like I was saying, I'm Priyanka, the founder of AMI. And at AMI, we connect parents with experts, such as Esther today, who is a lactation consultant. She is also a counselor with the La Leche League. I should not say the La Leche League, with La Leche League. And really happy to have her here. Esther is also one of the lactation consultants on the AMI platform. And I'm just going to pop in the link on the chat, because if you do ever need anything, in the future, you can also book sessions with Esther directly on the platform, and discovery calls, which are free. So here you go. I'll just pop that in the chat and we'll kick off shortly. Fantastic. Great, Esther. So thank you for being here. I'm going to hand over to you now. And yeah, looking forward to this.
Thank you so much for the lovely introduction, and so amazing to see you all, see your names, and this fantastic turnout of pregnant moms who are about to give birth and really close and past due date. And honestly, I'm so impressed that you're thinking ahead. Like Priyanka said, it's I also wish I was there at that stage and learning about what's to come. So you are in a perfect place. And as Priyanka said, who am I? So if you look at the selection of pictures here, that's me doing various things. I'm a mother. They were my two girls who it was taken a good few years ago, these pictures. So they're much older now. They are 14 or nearly 15 and a 10-year-old. And here I'm teaching them about baby wearing. I think my youngest one is doing some tandem baby wearing there. Very impressive. I run a mother group. So at the bottom here, you can see one of our La Leche League group meetings, which are free to all. We are a international charity with national and local branches. So again, we can share the details at the end, because I highly recommend you join one of those groups right now. We had 2 pregnant mums last Friday, and they really appreciated the input. We always encourage everyone to come while pregnant and not wait until baby is born, because now you've got a bit of a window while you're still able to have 2 hands and maybe some of your brain anyway, even though the hormones are raging. But at least you don't have a crying baby to think about, or a sleeping baby in an ideal scenario. So these meetings are lovely and interactive. We sit in a circle, we discuss all and any questions that you come with around breastfeeding. I run baby massage classes and other mom groups where we just chat and learn about motherhood and share and make friends. I've done some conference speaking. That's what you can see here in the middle. And first and foremost, my main job at the moment is being a lactation consultant. So what that means is I see families, mothers and babies in their own homes, if that's what's needed. I'm also available via Zoom, and this can happen anytime during pregnancy and all the way to the weaning age. So all ages and stages. And this is just a little slide to make it less formal. I don't really like formal presentations. So imagine yourself in a real circle, all of us together drinking tea and chatting around the fire. That's kind of the energy I'm trying to manifest here. And I hope you've got a nice drink and some refreshments with you, because you really need it, all of you. And chocolate is allowed. So what are you coming to the fire with? And I asked you to maybe share one question or concern in the chat box. There's no pressure, but if you've got something, and if I'm able to access the chat box, then I can maybe tweak the presentation. But of course, there will be time at the end. At the moment, I can't see any. So there'll be time at the end to ask questions as well. Maybe Priyanka, you give me a nudge if it looks like I'm going to overrun. So yeah, feel free to pop those questions in the chat box as we go, and we try our best to cover everything. And really quickly, some guidelines. You already know all of this, but obviously babies in arms welcome. They're probably with you if they're born, and they're definitely with you if they're not born yet. And please stay on mute until invited to talk. So to improve sound quality, we're all well versed in Zoom, I think, by now. So use the hands up symbol if you wish to speak. And Priyanka is here to keep an eye on chat box and mute. I'm used to running these sessions on my own, so then it's extra important. And I like to have cameras on as much as possible, because I think it's nice for you to see each other's faces, and it's really nice for me to see some faces during the presentation. Thank you so much. Someone already put video on, and please don't feel pressured, because I understand there are all sorts of circumstances here that may or may not be suitable for putting videos on, but it's absolutely lovely to just gauge who is the audience and maybe how you're reacting to some of the information I'm sharing here. Okay, so
Esther, we have a couple of questions on the chat just related to what you just said. So perhaps best to address them now. So one is, where are you running the community sessions?
Yeah, so I personally run community sessions in High Barnet in North London, but that's just my group. So as I said, we are all around the country. We've got about just under 200 leaders now. We call these breastfeeding counselors within La Leche League leaders. A bit unfortunate, but I'm used to it now. But this is just all it means. It's the person who runs the group would be a breastfeeding counselor. And we're all volunteers. And like I said, if you maybe we can find you a link to share in the chat box. If you look for LLGB, La Leche League GB, and find a group, then it will come up with a postcode search. So you can find your nearest group. So you don't have to travel all the way to High Barnet, as I imagine you're all over the country here. So it might not be accessible for you, but if you are, I'd love to have you. And I run fortnightly Fridays. So most groups are monthly. Some groups have several meetings a month, and the meetings are free, so you can turn up to as many as you like. So I would definitely encourage you to take advantage of that. And yes, I can see Shrina's question as well about managing engorgement. and a fast let down. So let's see if we get around to that, because it's all related, obviously, but definitely maybe not strictly in the sense of positioning attachment, but there are things that you can do about it. And I'd like to say, if we don't get around to all the questions, I'm very happy for my email address to be shared so we can continue this conversation and I can finish answering questions. Experience of breastfeeding my first child, but it was a very bumpy start, says Hannah, due to engorgement, flat nipples, and causing difficulty latching, plus minimal knowledge. So this time I'm getting as much info as possible before I'm very smart. Thank you so much for sharing that. So I hope it will be helpful. And again, nudge at the end if you feel like you need more information. So just to cover the basics, and I'm going to do my best to rush through my bit as fast as possible. And then that gives us more time for questions. So positioning attachment, or PNA, in the profession, highest percentage of breastfeeding mothers give up because of nipple pain. So I haven't got the exact numbers, but this is into 90%, above 90%. And no surprise, really. And this is not meant to scare you, this slide. It's meant to be a wake-up call. But if you're here, you're already halfway there because you're preparing, you're thinking ahead. And what I would also like to say is 9 out of 10 of these cases could be solved with very small tweaks. So the bottom statement there, all breastfeeding problems have a breastfeeding solution, is very much about the fact that you don't need complicated medication or any equipment, really. Most of the time, it's just small tweaks to do with positioning attachment. So being prepared, and then if it hurts, ask for help immediately and don't wait. Don't leave it. The earliest intervention, the earlier intervention, the better. So again, just to get you into the mood, to start thinking about how many breastfeed positions you know. Again, if you're able to, you can pop them in the chat box. I'd be interested to know what you already know. And if you're breastfed, okay, then maybe you can share which ones you used, which ones were your favorite. I'm just going to wait a few seconds to see if something comes up. Okay, we've got rugby position. Thank you, Anna. And I'll demonstrate all of these in a minute for those of you who are not familiar with them. Okay. Recently discovered koala. Yes, Shrina. Yeah, that's a great position. And again, I'm going to share in a minute what that looks like. It's got a very cute name, and it's a fantastic position to know. So horizontal on the side. Yeah, it's like a side lying position. Many moms don't know about it, and it can be a complete game changer. Like you say, how sweet sleep. Sometimes, exactly. Sometimes it's hard to do in the very early days, so it might not be the first one you go to, but certainly one to keep in mind. So thank you for the contribution. Let's see on the next slide. I hope you can see. It's not a great image. So I'm going to explain what's on there. We've got football hold. Rugby is the same as the rugby hold and sometimes called underarm hold. So this one here. We've got the cradle position, which might be the most popular and the most often seen in images, in imagery, in social media and handouts. There you go, Priyanka, your one there. The side lying is there indeed. And then one that I'm going to give special attention to today is the laid back position. This slide is all about, I'm going to demonstrate these in a minute. The next slide is about, you don't need to be able to read all those instructions there. This is what we're trying to avoid. So if someone, especially if you've already given birth once, you know what it's like. It's going to be quite an experience and you'll probably be out of it and raging with hormones. And so if someone stuck a piece of information sheet in front of you or started going through those 18 instructions, you would probably be very overwhelmed. When you give birth, it's very much a very right brain zone that you're in, and your right brain is just more of an emotional I can't find the right words myself. I must be in the right brain place right now. Left brain is your logical thinking and your executive function. That's what would make it very possible to read and understand and follow all these instructions. But actually, that's not very easy for someone with a newborn. So instead, I'd really like to encourage everyone to consider this position that you can see in this picture. And it's called biological nurturing, and it's also called laid back breastfeeding. And when I say hands off, I mean, instead of doing all that manipulation with your hands that you might have to do when you're using any of the other positions that were shown earlier, it's the most natural position for mothers and babies to get into. So that's why it's called biological. There is a video, which again, I think what we'll do is just come back to this depending on time and see if we can maybe go through the videos if we've got time at the end. Going back to these basic positions that you might also want to use, let's just maybe pause the share so I can demonstrate them for you just quickly, just so you've got a concept of what they all look like. So here's my little helper, Susan, and my other little helper, knitted boob. So as mentioned, the cradle position is when baby comes on from in front of you, more or less horizontal, but preferably slightly diagonal, from the underside of the breast. Very important to have baby's arms on either side of the breast. So a common mistake I see is baby being slightly like this, facing upwards, and then head turning towards you. What happens then is, if I ask you, if you've got any drink with you right now, if I ask you to drink your water with your head turned sideways, you would really struggle. So you can give it a go right now if you've got a bottle or a glass of drink next to you or a mug, and just try, see how that feels. So it's worth remembering it's the same for your baby. So you really don't want any kind of position to force them into this kind of head turning. So if you happen to notice that, just pull baby in towards you, let them cradle the breast, top and bottom, and they actually really need their hands to orient themselves. So I also encourage parents to take scratch mittens away. You can just file their little nails down with a little nail file so they don't scratch you. It's super important for them to orient themselves, to have that full frontal body contact, the arms, the legs, the tummy, everything turning towards you, and the chin smooshing into the breast. So what you see from the side is very much baby's chin buried into the breast tissue, and then nipple. But we're going to talk about latching in more detail in a minute. In a rugby position, baby would come in from under your arm. So that's one reason it's called underarm rugby or football hold. So again, baby is coming from below the nipple, approaching nipple from below, and arms either side. You'd probably need some sort of cushion or pillow under baby to support them and bring them to breast height, wherever your breast falls. So it might be a very thin pillow if your breast falls lower down. If your breast is up here, you might need some more cushioning on the baby. And with this position, it's extra important to pull them further back than you think. So you're tilting the nipple away, and you're getting, again, what you want to see is baby's chin buried into breast tissue, and with the nipple going in last and the nose clear. So in an ideal scenario, what you want to see is baby's chin buried in breast and the little gap under the nose so they can breathe and feed at the same time. So we got cradle. It's cross cradle when your hand is coming and supporting the baby's head just behind the ears here and between the shoulder blades in this kind of L shape position. You'd never want to press back a baby's head because they have a reflex to push back against that. So instead, you're creating an L shape and you're holding gently behind the baby's ears where the hard bit is. So if you feel behind your own ear, not in the soft area, but in the hard area, it's completely comfortable and very supportive. And in that way, you can position them and have them onto the breast. And once they settle and drinking, you can swap your arms, lean back a bit, and then you're in a cradle. So you've got the arm on the same side as your breast, supporting them. Use cushions. So what's the best investment for positioning? I never recommend any particular breastfeeding pillows or any special equipment. Just use the cushions that you have around the house, pillows and cushions, and just pop them under your arm wherever you need, wherever you feel like you're tensing and you need a bit of support. And then we had the side lying, which is going to be difficult for me to demonstrate on this call, but do look it up. And again, I'm happy to share some links at the end if that's helpful. So let's continue presentation. Back to the laid back position. So in this position, as you can see, you've got mom reclining at a roughly 45-degree angle. It can be more, it can be less. You can do it in a bed. You know, in the first few days, you're probably going to be laying in bed with your baby and bonding. The more you can do skin to skin, the better as well. Again, brings our baby's natural reflexes and helps you rest. When you just given birth, it's exhausting. You're recovering physically, mentally, and you need to grab all the rest you can have. So this is a lovely position. And the idea about it is that you recline so far back that if you put baby on top of you, they won't fall off. So gravity is doing its magic. As we described earlier, the arms, the legs, and the tummy all in contact with mum, chin tucking into breast tissue. And then if you were to zoom in, you would probably see a little gap under the nose. I wouldn't necessarily hold my hand here after the initial latch. What tends to happen is baby would tip his or her head sideways. So this arm, the arm we can't see, mom's supporting arm, would be supporting baby's head from tipping sideways. And so again, you're going to need that pillow or the cushion under the right arm in this picture, so you're able to support baby's head better. It's a lovely position. And there are so many more. So again, if you're able to see this, we'll share the links. I would have a closer look at this, especially if you've got older babies. When I say older, well, this covers all ages and stages, but sometimes when they get older, they do their own thing anyway. It gives you a lot of ideas. For example, if you have a C-section, you might want baby to come on from the outside. So if you were to look at these kind of pictures there, and again, I don't know how clearly you can see, but baby is coming in from the outside of the breast. So you might not want to bother your C-section scar. So you could have baby next to you on the bed, and then just baby's head coming onto the breast from the outside. Or you could have baby completely across your chest, coming onto the opposite breast. And so on and so forth. We've got side lying here. And yeah, the idea about this slide is just that there are no positions really. There are as many positions as there are bodies. There are as many positions as babies and situations, and your breast is a circle, 360 degrees, so baby can really come on from any angle. And so just go with your instinct and try things out. Be brave to experiment. And if it's comfortable, it doesn't matter if it doesn't have a name. Okay, so there's a typo there. Why is good attachment crucial for successful breastfeeding? 2 reasons, 3 reasons. For good milk transfer, so baby can thrive. For pain-free breastfeeding for mother, and to build milk supply. Okay, so that's why this is the long and short of breastfeeding, really. So there is an amazing video again. I have a feeling that we won't have time to watch all the videos, so I'm going to share the link there. It's a super website, Global Health Media. I don't know if you've come across it. If you haven't, I would urge you to check it out because it's got some amazing visuals, as you can see in these stills, basically showing the breast the nipple inside baby's mouth. So if you look at the picture on the right, so the left is the baby is about to latch on. And as I described, you've got the chin really anchored onto the areola, the breast tissue under the nipple. On the right side, you can see the nipple inside baby's mouth. Can you see how deeply the nipple needs to go? If you were to roll your tongue to the top of your palate right now and roll your tongue back until the hard palate turns into soft palate, you will see how far back that is. That's how far you want baby nipple to go in baby's mouth. That's why we keep going on about positioning attachment. The main reason for soreness is the nipple to be rubbing on baby's hard palate, and that's usually because of a shallow latch. So if baby comes on in this bullseye position, which is what we want to avoid, so always bring baby down and in and create that asymmetric latch. And then we're going to talk about nipple shaping as well. There's various ways you can make this latch really deep and pain-free for yourself. So again, just here for comparison, you can see in the middle picture, if I was to ask you which one looks like a good latch and which one looks like a painful latch, the right answer would be the one on the far right. Looks like a very shallow latch. Can you see those pursed lips? It looks like it's going to be a very shallow baby just sucking on a nipple. If you look at the picture on the left and the middle, baby's mouth open wide, the chin is tucking into breast tissue, and we've got a thumbs up from Hannah. Feel free to comment in the chat box, and if you've got anything to add. Again, look at the next slide from a different angle. So same kind of message. So these visuals are really useful, and on the Global Health Media website, you'll be able to see a video version of all of these with commentary as well. So a really good reminder to watch over and over again before baby is born or in the early days, just as good reminders of what entails a good latch. You've got the tick here. So the quiz has been answered for you. This baby is about to come on. What's about to happen? So if you were to see this situation, another example of the reason I keep saying pull baby back and below nipple, whichever position they're in. If you don't, then you end up with this kind of scenario where baby has to tuck chin down to get to the breast. And again, if you had a glass of water or bottle to hand, you could try to drink with your chin tucked down. Completely impossible, okay? You simply can't. There is no room to swallow. So this baby is not going to be able to drink. So what's likely to happen in the next few seconds is this baby is going to flail left and right, start shaking his head, looking for the breast. And then the moms usually go, well, it's here, look, it's right here. But it doesn't matter if it's right there, because it's the question of getting baby into the right position to latch on, to be able to open, drop their jaw, tip their head back, and have some nice space to swallow. Okay, so just more variations on the same theme. Left one being nice and wide, right one being very narrow latch. Okay, so another sign talking about sore breasts, sore nipples. If you look at the graphics here, after baby's been feeding, and there was a question about flat nipples, so maybe it's time to talk about shaping the breast and the nipple in a second. But what you will notice is when baby's been sucking on the breast for a while, you're going to see your nipple elongated. That's completely normal. Don't be alarmed. It's because of that. If you're latching well and the nipple gets pulled into the back of baby's mouth, into that soft palate, then there is naturally a vacuum being created, so that elongates. So if you got sort of flat nipples, then that also tends to evert more, protrude more after a period of breastfeeding. However, if the latch is shallow, so like some of those pictures that we've seen, then often the nipple comes out lipstick shape, so more pointy, flat, maybe a line down the middle, and it would probably be quite sore as well. So if you see that, you'll know there is something that needs correcting. If your nipple still has that nice round contour, even if it's elongated, you're most likely to be okay. So again, just pausing for a moment, see how can you achieve that? How can you get the nipple further in, apart from the positioning? So we talk about positioning attachment. So these two things go hand in hand. So whichever position you're in, you can flatten the breast. So naturally the breast is a round shape, and it's actually quite hard for tiny newborn babies to latch onto a balloon, a ball, like a round shape. So to make it a little bit easier for them, you can create more of a sandwich. So we actually call it a breast sandwich. Some people like to call it burger. And again, a visual for you, if you were to bite into a sandwich, you would flatten it and line it up with your mouth, with your lips, like that. And then that's exactly what you're trying to achieve with baby as well. So flattening the breast, and more than that, tilting the nipple upward slightly, because remember where we're trying to get the nipple sort of into the back of the roof of the mouth. So it's more as if you wanted the nipple to come out the kind of top of the head. So that's what you're aiming for. So flatten and tilt. Okay? And then when you touch baby's cheek or chin, ideally they're going to open wide, and you can put some breast tissue in with the nipple going in last. And that's hopefully going to achieve a nice deep latch. If your nipples are on the flat side, again, some moms think they have flat nipples, but actually they don't. So a nipple doesn't necessarily need to look like this. They all come in different shapes and sizes. But even more important than to maybe manipulate the nipple a little bit just before you're about to latch baby, maybe do a little bit of hand expression to get the milk flowing, so it's a little bit easier again for baby to figure out what's going on, and then do that flattening and tilting to make it a bit easier for baby. So these are the visuals I kind of went through. So we've got the sandwich hold, we've got, remember, bottle, the glass of water. You can't drink with your chin down or with your head sideways. So baby's body, nice long straight line, and with the head tilting backwards and chin looking up with space under the chin rather than chin tucked down. If we had more time, I would talk you through an apple example as well, which would give us exactly the same message. And elephants are wise. That's why I'm wearing an elephant necklace. But the reason he's there is more about being like a glove puppet. So the way you manipulate your baby is, remember that hand as if you're wearing a glove puppet. So that's that visual. That's what it's about. Moving on. How are we doing for time, Priyanka? Can you just give me a bit of a time check, please?
Yeah, sure. We're okay. We've got 25 minutes still, so no rush at all. If you want to delve into anything, it depends on how much material you've got left. But yeah.
Amazing. Thank you. Yeah, I think I'm going to go through the slides, and then depending on how many questions we've got, we can always spare the time. We're going back and watching those videos. So be more mammal. So they just know what to do, don't they? You've got monkeys, you've got those lovely kittens, cats, kittens feeding on their mums and pounding and doing their thing, and they know exactly what to do. They've got the instinct. And so this slide is about giving babies time. So after you give birth, everyone now knows about the golden hour, although nowadays they're talking about 2 hours really. So even an hour isn't long enough. So if you're doing those birth plans right now, think about how you're going to ensure a disturbance-free, as much intervention-free post-partum period as much as possible. This is the time to get all the help you can. In our last Latch meeting, we had a mom complaining about how the parents-in-law booked flights, to be there right after the birth and stay for a week. And, she's talking about how that might not be conducive to having a lovely kind of baby moon when you can just bond with your baby and practice. And adopting a natural feeding position. So just going back to those different positions, that lay back when you recline and bringing baby onto your chest and below breast height, just onto your tummy more like, is the more likely to be helping with your oxytocin flow, which is the most important hormone, which will happen naturally after, especially a relatively calm birth. But you will produce oxytocin, but you can really help yourself by bringing your baby skin to skin as much as possible. If you can do kangaroo care or baby wearing, I keep talking about this as well. If you now is the right time to get yourself maybe a rep sling, one of those stretchy reps, and maybe look at some tutorials and get the idea, or maybe practice with a doll, or if you're lucky enough to have a sling library near you, pop along to one and practice with a doll. They dare to help you. And that can be a bit of a sanity saver, especially if it's not your first baby, because you can be hands-free. I'm not encouraging you to get up and do stuff in the first few days after birth, but when you're ready, you can keep your baby close in that lovely fourth trimester. I think more and more people understand the meaning of the first 2 to 3 months of life, when babies really expect to be close to you and be fed on demand. Again, it's not strictly to do with positioning attachment, but it's worth mentioning how newborns don't feed on a schedule. They just pretty much at the moment while they're inside the womb, talking to those of you who are still during pregnancy, and it's a bit of a shock for them to be born and having to work for their food. So let's be kind to them and just understand that their tiny tummies just need filling around the clock, and so they're not being naughty, they're just being babies. And for that reason, it's also worth pointing out that feeding on the early feeding cues is really important. And this chart is lovely. You might have seen it. It's all over the internet. So if you look up early feeding cues, you will find it. So the top line here is stirring, mouth opening, turning head, seeking and rooting, left, right, left, right, left, right. And that's a seeking behavior. So we already know that baby needs food. When they get to mid cues, they're really hungry. So they're starting stretching, yawning, increasing physical movement, hand to mouth. They bring their hand to their mouth regularly. And crying is a late cue. So, you don't know what you don't know, and some babies go from 0 to 100 within seconds. So, you will learn your baby's behaviors. You'll know when they need to be fed, and don't beat yourself up if you miss those early cues. You basically we're all humans. You might be distracted, you might be busy, but at that point, it's really hard to latch a baby well. So what you want to do at this point is calming. So cuddling, skin to skin, bring them to your chest, talk to them, stroke them, sing to them. So it's for you is difficult because listening to crying baby is stressful for mothers. But just try and remind yourself, just take a few deep breaths and just have a quick cuddle. And the moment they're calmer, you're back to this top line, and then you can latch them. You can try and latch them again, and that will be a good time to feed. So the earlier feeding cues you can catch, the better. The flip pull technique. So that's what I was trying to show you earlier with this nipple tilt. So again, you can do this by squeezing and tilting, or you could simply do it by, when the breast gets close to baby's mouth, you can literally just put one finger or one thumb on the top of the nipple. So you're tilting the nipple upwards as if you're trying not to get the nipple in the mouth. So the idea is not to get the nipple in the mouth. The idea is to get more breast tissue from below the nipple and then get nipple in. So again, if you've got time, we'll watch that video. If not, we'll share it. Useful one to know. To hold or not to hold. So again, it's about holding the breast. So I think when it comes to this level of detail, I would just encourage you to pop along to a group, a drop-in, talk to a lactation consultant, talk to an experienced peer, because there are no one-size-fits-all rules. I've seen mothers who were forever holding their breasts for the duration of the breastfeed, which was actually not necessary at all. And for others, it would have been quite helpful, and they just would not touch their breasts. So I think it's, again, very hard to give generic advice. I give you one example. If you're really large breasted and you bring baby into this position, into this cradle position, And let's say you've got a nice fat feeding pillow. That's why I would be cautious with feeding pillows. And then maybe your breast naturally falls here-ish, but the baby comes up here because of the feeding pillow. So what you do is then you hike up your breast, get it into baby's mouth. So what's the next thing that's going to happen? Your larger and heavier breast, probably when it's full of milk especially, is just going to slip out. So all of a sudden, you're going to have to keep lifting your breast and keep relatching, and the baby's going to get frustrated. So this is a good example of what would you do. You would probably do away with that feeding pillow completely. Let just your breast sit where it normally sits and bring baby to where your breast naturally falls, and maybe just do a bit of holding while you latch baby on, but then you just let go. And again, like we said, you can lay back and just support baby's head. Once they latched on, you most likely not need to hold the breast. But if you do need to hold it, or when you're about to latch, there's different ways of doing it. That first one is called U-hold. This one is called scissor hold there in the middle. And this last one is called a C-hold for obvious reasons. And you would use the U-hold probably in a sideway type of position, so either in a cradle or in a rugby, because remember, we're trying to line the breast up with baby's mouth. So you're trying to come under and create that line parallel to baby's mouth. At this point, it's probably a good idea to look at a koala, which one of you mentioned in the introduction. So in a koala position, your baby would be straddling across your leg. So it's a more upright position. So you probably can't see, but this baby is just straddling on my leg. Let me get her on this side a little bit more easier to see. And in this case, baby would come to your breast in this upright vertical position. So this, in this case, this C-hold would be quite useful because you can grab your breast, create that sandwich, and tear the nipple up. I'm just showing it to you over baby's head, but then you'd latch baby on like this. Okay? So these holds can be useful in various situations. A one-size-fits-all approach, again, won't suit. I can't emphasize enough. So go see someone in person, get them to watch you feed, watch you latch, position, and they will be able to make small tweaks if it's not comfortable. Sorry, that sounds quite judgmental there. Antenatal classes are limited value. The good one is highly recommended. And why do you think that may be? What I find is early days in hospital and birth center may be busy, messy, distracted, not an ideal learning condition, just as we said earlier. So preparation is key, but there is nothing like holding a real baby. And this picture is just meant to remind us that there were quite a few months of me visiting clients when I saw this kind of thing, the bagpipe, which I started calling the bagpipe position, with babies' legs being tucked down their mom's arm. I don't know if you've been taught this or you've been shown this. I think it's of limited value because babies get big so quickly that you won't be able to hold their weight up. That's one reason. The other reason is that even with a newborn, it would just give you shoulder and arm ache, and so it's not sustainable. And finally, babies are just much more comfortable, just like us, in head over bottom position, so head higher than bum. It's just better for their digestions, there's less reflux in a position, just like you, apart from the old Roman emperors. Not everyone finds lying down, eating lying down very comfortable. So that's just a little word on that. And then tricks for fussiness or breast refusal at later stages. Again, it goes back to that, fussy, angry baby is going to be hard to feed. So these are little tricks you can do. Some find it very, very useful to hold on to those birthing balls if you've got them. Don't pack them away when you've given birth, because they can be super helpful for bouncing on, just holding baby. Even if they just fed and they stay fussy, obviously don't go too vigorous because they bring up their feet. But or if you can't latch them and you just can't think of anything else, then just always think movement. Because while they're in the womb, they've got their lovely environment. There's water. So in the next picture there, you can see obviously on a lovely hot summer's day, not like it was today, and you can go into the pool, but short of that, you can just go and hop in the bath. That's always highly recommended in the early days. Most babies love that warm water, especially if you're going with them. So there's co-bathing, sharing that lovely warm water environment, and even a swivel chair. So with older babies, again, if there is a bit of breast refusal or nursing start going on, any kind of movement, spinning, you can stand up and rock if they're light enough and small enough to just carry them around and feed them standing up. These are just little tricks you can try. So this is a bit of a summary. So the best position for a mother and baby pad depends on so many things: size and anatomy of mothers and babies' bodies, stage of breastfeeding, furniture available, time of day, mode of giving birth. So again, if you're given birth by C-section, you probably want to protect your scar. Left or right-handedness. Often right-handed moms prefer the left breast, and they end up producing more milk on that side. Again, it's very normal. Don't be surprised. Almost all moms are lopsided. I'm yet to meet a mom who will tell me they've got exactly the same supply on both sides. Mothers' health issues, disabilities, babies' health issues, oral function. So many different things play a part. And these are just my recommendations for amazing websites, as I mentioned earlier: Global Health Media, Nancy Moorbacher, lovely series of positioning videos there with real moms and real babies. And then here, blowing my whistle a little bit as well, I've got several little videos on my website and my YouTube channel, all about different positioning and attachment questions, just little 1-2 minute shorties that you're welcome to look up. And then a whole series of links about breastfeeding with large breasts. It tends to be a common question, and there is so much out there. There is literally, if you've got a question, it will be answered somewhere. You just need to know where to go to find the answer. And yeah, that's the QR code if you want to go straight to my website and find that link where it takes you straight to those free videos that you can just look at. And yeah, thank you for your participation. And it's time for any questions or comments.
Thanks so much, Esther. That was really, really insightful. I think there's so much in there. What I will do, if you're okay, is pass on some of the links and an email follow-up to the participants, so they have it for when they will need it, or when they like to reference it. So we had a couple of questions initially around managing engorgement. So the first one was around managing engorgement and fast letdown. What would you sort of suggest there?
Yeah, thank you for the question. And it's very common in the early days. Those of you who've already had babies, you will know. But for those of you who are about to experience this for the first time, very common on day 2, 3, 4, that when your milk comes in inverted commas, when your milk production really and truly kicks off. And for C-section moms, it can be a little bit later, or if you had any kind of complication around the birth, it can be 5 or up to a week. So don't panic if your milk doesn't kick off after 2 or 3 days. But that's the most common time, and it kind of feels like your breasts sometimes feel like rock hard. You might feel a little bit hot, and you might even feel like flu symptoms. How do you manage it? And I think, judging from this question, Shrina, it's maybe, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm guessing it's a slightly later stage, is maybe not as an early kind of just post-birth engorgement. But the treatment is the same for engorgement. These days, we don't recommend any vigorous massage or vigorous pumping, because again, it would be another session altogether to talk about milk production. But just in short, supply and demand. Milk production in the breast is very much a supply-demand cycle. So the more you remove, the more you produce. So if you've got this type of issue and the engorgement is because you have too much milk, then and fast letdown, that what you're really trying to do is reduce that fullness. And the way you can do that is by doing very gentle hand expression just before baby is about to latch on. So again, we talked about that latching onto balloon. So to make that more baby friendly, you can there's something called lymphatic drainage massage, which again is something we can share a link to or Google it. It's called lymphatic drainage massage on the breast. It's really gentle, like stroking a cat, and it's more about moving the fluids backwards into your body. So it strokes back towards the chest wall, and you do 10 circles under the collarbone, and then you do 10 circles in your armpit. Your breast tissue goes all the way back into your armpit, into your axilla. And by doing this gentle massage, it's, as it says on the tin, lymphatic drainage. It creates, it drains the breast and gets some of the fluids back into your circulation. So that can be helpful. Obviously, this would be done between feeds. It's not quick enough to do just when you're about to do a feed. But if you've got that engorgement and fast down and you're noticing your baby struggling and maybe gulping and choking on the flow of the milk, you can just do a really quick, what's called reverse pressure softening. So you can create a little flower shape with your fingers and just press into the areola around the nipple to move the fluids back, again, backwards into the back of the breast. This can also be done with two hands, like this. Obviously, you don't need to hold your breast like me. So you can just use both hands to move those fluids back into the chest wall. And finally, gentle hand expression. So again, if you feel like your milk is spraying and coming in super fast and baby simply can't cope with the flow, just hand express into a muslin super quickly before you start the feed. We talked about that C hold earlier, so it's creating the C shape and then gently pressing back towards the chest wall and together. So when you hand express, you don't slide your fingers, you press back and together in that C shape. Okay, so I hope that's helpful, but do let me know if there is something else.
Thanks for that. And then we have another question around, engorgement, flat nipples. That's perhaps like, and that caused difficulty latching. So any tips for that scenario? If
Yes. Yeah. So engorgement, we just tackled. So if the engorgement continues and you start feeling maybe hard, lumpy areas, redness, soreness in the breast, the latest on tackling that is ice and ibuprofen. So if you're allowed to take ibuprofen, then you're allowed to take it when you're breastfeeding as well. It's compatible with breastfeeding. And ice, just using ice out of your freezer and just keep packing it on wherever you feel a kind of heat and localized engorgement. I just talked about general engorgement. I talked about flat nipples during the session. So it would be all about try and draw out your nipple with those techniques I introduced you to, and also you can use a pump, or you can create a handmade device as well with a syringe and sort of literally pull the nipple up. Some people use a bit of ice and rub it on the nipple, and that just helps. But generally, by doing a bit of hand expressing is enough. And then if it's really and truly flat nipple or inverted nipple, then you might consider using a nipple sheared. So these are the things I can think of.
Thank you. And then we have one more question on your thoughts on colostrum harvesting and when to use the colostrum.
Yes. So yes, I do have some thoughts on colostrum harvesting. It's a really useful thing to do from about 36 weeks onwards. You might hear some sort of panicky discouragement of this. It's obviously talk to your midwife for reassurance, but it's generally very safe. And it's a really good idea because you're going to start practice hand expressing. It's a really useful skill once baby's here. There can be all sorts of reasons why you need to hand express. So it's a good way to learn to handle your breasts and your nipple in a way that's new, maybe if you haven't breastfed before. And you just need those little 1 ml syringes, which you can probably ask your midwife for. You can express straight into them. And remember, colostrum is this yellow, sticky substance which is absolute magic and liquid gold. So the babies only need a few drops of it. So don't expect huge amounts. Some women can express more than others. There's really no reason to compare. The amount of colostrum you can express is not related to the amount of milk you're going to produce. So again, it's not compulsory, but it's a good thing to get your head around, and it's a bit of an insurance policy. So as for your second question, when to use it, if there is any kind of complicated birth, separation from baby, and your baby in the early days needs a bit of extra milk, then that's the way you can give it to them straight from those syringes that you saved your colostrum in. So it can be great for their health, for their immunity, and just for being fed while, for example, you're expressing, or again, if you get separated or baby is sick or for any reason. So these are the reasons it would be a useful thing to do.
Amazing. Thank you for that. I think that's the end of the questions. This was really helpful, Esther. I think there was a lot of practical information there. And I just want to add on a personal note. I had with my firstborn, he was very hungry. I had an emergency C-section, and so things didn't go as planned in the birth scenario. And often, when you go to the antenatal classes, you feel like you have, you no other choice but to do things a certain way. And like you said, like with an emergency C-section, it took time for the milk to come in. It doesn't mean that, you're failing in any way. So I would just sort of put that out there to all, if you're a first time mom, like give yourself the space and time and don't judge yourself because everybody has a different journey and you will get there. So it's a matter of being patient. And I had to do formula for a couple of feeds in that first week because I didn't have the milk, and I felt like I failed my child, but that wasn't the case. I was able to exclusively breastfeed after some time. So I think one has to be gentle. I just wanted to put that out there because it can feel very heavy when you go to the sessions and when you think that you have to do things and things don't turn out the way you imagined or planned they would. So yeah, that's just my two bits.
No, 100%. And huge credit to you for soldiering through it and finding a solution. Lucky babies you have, and absolutely 100% agree. There's nothing wrong with formula. Babies need feeding. So sometimes it takes time for things to fall into place. And like I said, 9 times out of 10 breastfeeding problems will have a breastfeeding solution if you seek the right support. So thank you
Yeah.
for pointing that out.
No worries, no worries. So again, thanks everyone. If you have any questions for Esther, please do let me know. I will share an email out. Esther, if you can send me the resources, I'll CC you into the email so everyone has your email address as well. And I will send that out along with a recording of the session if that's of interest, if you would like to sign up to the AMI community as well. And just so you know, since we are new, we are offering a discount code for your first booking on the platform. So you just use AMI10. If you need any sleep or feeding help, Esther, like I said, is on the platform too and available to take bookings. So just use that code if you ever require it. But thank you. And yes, I will send out an email with the recording link and with the other information along with Esther's email. Great. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
everyone. Thank you for having me.
It's so great to have you. Thank you for taking the time out so late. We're bang on time. I see it's 9:30, so perfectly timed. Couldn't have done it better. So fantastic. Thanks, everyone. And yeah, feel free to follow more of Ami's sessions. We keep having them quite regularly on different parenting topics for new parents. So yes, if you are keen to learn more and get all of these discounts, just sign up on our mailing list and you'll be updated quite regularly. So thank you. Thanks, everyone. Have a lovely night. Thanks, Esther. Thank you so much for your wisdom tonight. Thank you. Bye.
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 Bye.